order the Seminole Airport Authority for Tuesday, July 10th at 7 p.m. If we could go ahead and get a roll call, please, Jay.
Stephanie Lambert, Bill Watland.
Here.
Tim Poplin.
Here.
Edie Patterson.
Here.
John Kramer.
Here.
Chris Anson.
Here.
Larry Church.
Here.
Corey Crabtree.
Here.
Shane Fisher.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Consideration and action of consent agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Roll call, please, Jay.
Bill Watland.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Edie Patterson.
Yes.
John Kramer.
Yes.
Chris Anson.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
Shane Fisher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Are there any appearances or petitions from the audience for the Airport Authority? If not, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? We can go ahead and call to order the Seminole Gas Authority. Roll call, please, Jay.
John Kramer.
Here.
Tim Poplin.
Here.
Edie Patterson.
Here.
Bill Watland.
Here.
Corey Crabtree.
Here.
Stephanie Lambert. Larry Church.
Here.
Chris Anson. Here. Shane Fisher.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Consideration and action of consent agenda.
Move approval. Second.
Roll call, please, Jay.
John Kramer.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Edie Patterson.
Yes.
Bill Watland.
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Chris Anson.
Yes.
Shane Fisher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Are there any appearances or petitions from the audience for the Gas Authority? If not, can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? If we can now call to order, please, the Seminole Utilities Authority. Roll call, please, Jay.
Edie Patterson.
Here.
John Kramer.
Here.
Chris Anson.
Here.
Bill Watland.
Here.
Corey Crabtree.
Here.
Tim Poplin.
Here.
Stephanie Lambert. Larry Church.
Here.
Shane Fisher.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Consideration and action of consent agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Roll call, please, Jay.
Edie Patterson.
Yes.
John Kramer.
Yes.
Chris Anson.
Yes.
Bill Watland.
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Shane Fisher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Are there any appearances or petitions from the audience for the Utilities Authority? Under current business, consideration and possible action to approve accepting DEQ permit number SD 67180378 for discharge structure system improvements at the wastewater treatment plant.
This is our flume replacement coming out of the discharge, so one of the things that we talked about in the budgeting sessions.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please, Jay.
Edie Patterson.
Yes.
John Kramer.
Yes.
Chris Anson.
Yes.
Bill Watland.
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Shane Fisher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? If we could now go ahead and call to order the Seminole City Council meeting. A roll call, please. Jay?
Chris Anson.
Here.
Edie Patterson.
Here.
Stephanie Lambert. Larry Church.
Here.
Tim Poplin.
Here.
Bill Watland.
Here.
Corey Crabtree.
Here.
John Kramer.
Here.
Shane Fisher.
Here.
We have a quorum.
If we could go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you can be kind enough to lead the prayer, please.
Isaga miski hanga gigulaye. Oka sakka ne kuchide med o moment o tolofa Seminole. Moment posti amalgin. Iri no kichikidis moment chimi isaga ne misi anagitskas. God, whose mercies cannot be numbered, accept our prayer of thanks for the city of Seminole and for all our people. Let us love one another, for you, God, are love. Amen.
Amen.
Consideration and action of consent agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Roll call, please, Jay.
Chris Anson.
Yes.
Edie Patterson.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Bill Watland.
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
John Kramer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Under elections and appointments, consideration possible action to approve renewal of appointments of Jenny Morgan and Stu Phillips to the Planning Commission for 3 years.
Motion to approve. Second.
Roll call, please, Jay.
Chris Anson.
Yes.
Dee Dee Patterson.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Bill Wantland.
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
John Kramer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Consideration possible action to approve renewing the appointments of Gary Adams and Michelle Downey to the Board of Adjustments for 3 years.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call, please, Jay.
Chris Anson.
Yes.
Dee Dee Patterson.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Bill Wantland.
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
John Kramer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Number 3, consideration possible action to approve renewing appointments of Trace Connor and Claudia Willis to the Urban Renewal Authority for 3 years.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Chris Anson.
Yes.
Dee Dee Patterson.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Bill Wantland.
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
John Kramer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
There are no items removed from the consent agenda. Are there any appearances or petitions from the audience for the city council meeting? Under approvals and acceptances, ordinances, number 4, consideration and possible action to approve ordinance number 1222, an ordinance establishing license and permit requirements, operational requirements, and restrictions and penalties for the operation of golf carts within the city of Seminole.
I've got several issues with this, and being that Brad kind of wrote this up, and I think he was approached about it from some of the citizens, I'd kind of like to see us table this till he's back. If everybody's okay with that?
You make a motion to table.
Yes, oh, sorry. Make a note of that motion, sorry.
Second.
Let me get a roll call, please. Jay?
Chris Anson.
Yes.
Dee Dee Patterson.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Bill Wantland.
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
John Kramer.
Yes.
Motion to table passes.
As 4A is the emergency clause to go with that ordinance since it is tabled, it is a moot point. On approvals and ordinances, 3A, consideration possible action to approve ordinance number 1223, an ordinance adding section 11, medical marijuana, to Title 9, licensing and business regulations of the City of Seminole Code of Ordinances.
I have a question about that. There are several places where there are X's in the draft for something to be inserted.
Yes.
It's not there.
Yes. Would you like to insert something?
Well, I'd like to know what it is that we're inserting at that. I
Okay.
don't want to vote on something without knowing what's supposed to be there.
Yes. So, what we're trying to do is to begin the discussion about the medical marijuana. We all know that the law passed and the voters voted to allow it, and so we're grappling, as are all other Oklahoman municipalities, with what is our role here. We happen to have the foremost cannabis expert on our staff. She's self-educated herself over the last month, 2 months, and no, wait a minute. Now, I may have misspoken there. That's not what I meant. Sharon, could you make your way to a microphone?
She has a ski lodge somewhere.
Can you roll with one hand?
Here.
Travel training and dues. for
Come-
this.
And you didn't bring brownies.
Come to a mic so, I didn't see it. It's pointed at me. It's pointed at me, so, all right. What we have done since this has been put on the ballot, we've been trying to educate ourselves with some of the things that are going on nationwide. How are other communities dealing with medical marijuana in states where it's legal? And what can we take from their experiences and implement here? So this is a fantastic piece of work, and I'm not exaggerating. It's really, really well done. I can't tell you how pleased I am with the effort that Sharon made on this. It's a combination of Boulder, Colorado, and Idaho something, Idaho, and a few others. But for the most part, if you take the one out of Idaho and the one out of Colorado and Boulder, you're going to see the meat of it came from them. Now, this should not be confused with anything regarding recreational marijuana, because what we've learned is in those communities where medical is licensed first and recreation later, they're actually separate sections of their ordinance. So medical is dealt with much differently than recreational. This is only medical. Now, I should say that we crafted this, and I would consider it extremely conservative, all right, because we wanted your input as to where you want it toned down. I think it probably lines up on the 49% of the voters that voted against the medical use. It's very restrictive, and if I would like to open it up for your questions to Sharon and to see if there's any specific pieces of it that you didn't like. And then I'll kind of wrap it up. If nobody has questions, I'll kind of point out some things that I think we need to look at. And then, Mayor, if it pleases the council, I don't think we're ready for action tonight. Even though it's posted for action, I don't think we're ready. So I would ask that maybe you put together a little committee of council members that would like to work with Sharon and I and try to get to something that's workable for our community. You probably saw, or maybe you didn't, this afternoon the Oklahoma Health Department came out with some very, very restrictive pieces to what the voters had passed. I don't want to go there. I feel like the voters spoke, and it's not our job to do what the voters say don't do. In the health department's case, they actually limited, which was opposed to what was on the ballot, the number of plants that could be grown. They dictated that a pharmacist must be present at any dispensary. That was certainly, in my opinion, was not the intent of the law or the petition that was put in front of the voters. And then probably most important is that, two things. They said no smoking marijuana. So any smoked marijuana is out according to the medical, the purpose that they've put in front of them at the health department. And then a really important piece of this is they capped the amount of THC. Now, I'm sounding like an expert. Sharon is the cannabis expert, but the THC capping is significant. And what I learned this afternoon, the reason that is significant is because most of your edible marijuana has much higher limits than 20. The health department limited at 20. So in effect, what they did is they said, all right, there's no smoking it, and we're making it so restrictive that you can't eat it either. So they basically have legislated it through rules, not through the legislature who passed it on to them. They've legislated out what the voters passed. So we will be hearing a lot more in the coming months about that. But where we're at with this ordinance, it's, we were getting calls daily, and I'm talking daily, in many cases, multiple calls from property owners, from dispensary want-to-be's, and from producers and growers. And they wanted to rent places in Seminole. So we said, you know what, we don't. The question was really, and it was asked in many forms, but really when you boil it out, the question is, so if I put this dispensary at 111 North Main, what is the city going to do about that? We didn't have any answers. So it was imperative that we put something in place, because in my opinion, and Brad's not here to debate it, so it stands for tonight. In my opinion, if these people start opening businesses before we get an ordinance in place, they would be grandfathered in. And that really concerns me, because we need to have at least some ability to govern over the dispensaries and growing in our community. So, you have in front of you a proposed ordinance. Again, it's overly restrictive, and I acknowledge that up front. And what I'm asking for is some help from you guys, some guidance, to help Sharon and I get to an end result that is something that we can all agree upon. Now, we need to do it quickly, because when is it, 60 days from the date of the election, which was
The 26th.
yeah, June 26th. So we're on a very short fuse. We need to have something in place, because very soon the landlords in Seminole will be leasing these properties, and they'll be spending a lot of money getting the property ready for dispensaries, et cetera. And we need to have something in place. Do you have anything you want to add, Sharon, other than you're a fantastic cannabis person?
You're too kind. I did pass out to you the actual proposition that was voted on to go with the ordinance that was proposed, so that you could kind of compare the two.
I have a question.
Sure.
If the ordinance and what was filed and voted upon by the state, and that's what they approve, they then just take it and alter it at will, and what the health department says now becomes the law?
Until it's challenged, yes. And I
So
suspect.
basically what the health department has released will be the state law.
For the time being, and
So
I
my-
suspect it'll be challenged quickly.
My question then, and I don't disagree with that at all personal feelings aside, can you be more liberal than the state law?
No.
So whatever they passed, for the most part, we have to accept that or stricter.
Yes.
So it's not really up for discussion how liberal or what you want to be, just whether or not you want to be more conservative than what the health department has sent out.
Yes. Within the boundaries of what is set in the petition. I wouldn't want to get us in a spot where we're having to defend ourselves against what was actually voted upon. We won't win.
But you
that.
still can't be more, even though the health department made it more conservative.
That's true, but
I mean,
I
my
don't.
question is this, is you can't have an ordinance that allows smoking of marijuana
Right.
within your city when
Right.
they have come out and said
Right.
you flat cannot smoke it.
Yes.
If they've set a cap on THC at 20, you can't say that you can have THC of 35
Right.
to
No,
40.
you're absolutely right. We're not going
If
to.
a pharmacist has to be present, then you cannot open a dispensary without a state board certified pharmacist.
Right.
And basically what you've relegated it to, if medical marijuana is only available through a medical prescription and a pharmacist has to be present, then theoretically the only place that you can get marijuana is at the pharmacy
Right.
unless you're growing it yourself. True?
Well, in a practical sense, yes, but I will assume that there will be dispensaries that hire a pharmacist.
Sure. But a dispensary that has a pharmacist, isn't that now a pharmacy?
No.
No?
I don't
They
think so.
can't mix a pharmacy and a dispensary.
So,
That's not allowed.
So
So your
Walmart
pharmacy
couldn't start
can't
selling
get it.
marijuana
What?
because it's a
so your
pharmacy.
Correct.
It is, so where are
Right.
you gonna get it? I mean,
Well,
it's gonna be a while before
No,
you-
it'll be a dispensary, which I've not yet understood. If it's medical marijuana, you have a prescription, why I can't get it where every other prescription
Doctors
is
can't
written.
write a prescription for marijuana. They can only recommend that their patients be allowed to get a medical marijuana license
Right, for 2 years.
for 2 years.
No other medicine you get for 2 years, but yeah.
Well, that's another rule that they changed. They want it every year.
Right.
Oh.
No.
So they bought us some time, is what they did.
Well, I think what it happens is every step of the way is it's like everybody can do something, but you have to go pay a little bit of extra to get a little bit of your extra license and those type of things. Because I know the physician does, the pharmacist does, the dispensary does. Everybody pays a fee. And so right now, no physicians can write anything until they actually pay to be a physician that can do that.
Until the federal government takes it off the schedule,
Right,
doctors cannot write a prescription for
Right.
marijuana.
right.
Question, Mayor. I've given this a lot of thought and lost a few nights of sleep thinking about, what our responsibility is. I think that if we get outside what the state has approved or disapproved, then we are looking at litigation, expense. If we get, if the state says you can do something, and we say you can't do it in Seminole, then I think you're opening up a big can of worms. I know you're going to table this, but I think that we need, or my thoughts and recommendation is, we follow the state law until there are some specific guidelines that we feel like maybe is worth either accepting or not accepting. But I think you really got to be careful right here. And we have to set ourselves what we personally believe, and this is what I was dealing with. We have to set that aside because we were not put in this position for us to decide what we want to do. We are here to represent the people that put us in this position and in these chairs. The state has decided by numbers that this has been approved. And I think it's our obligation, and I know Seminole was a close numbers there, but for us to go against what the people of the state of Oklahoma has voted upon, then I think we really need to think about that. I remember back when I was a child, and I'm thinking from the city standpoint right here. You couldn't sell fireworks in the state of Oklahoma, in Seminole. It was legal in the state of Oklahoma, but Seminole said, no, you can't sell it in the city limits. So everybody drove a mile or two out, and they bought their fireworks, they brought them in, they shot them all over town. The city park opened up. You could shoot the fireworks there on a certain night that the mayor said was shooting. What did the city get? Nothing. And then one of those fireworks must have hit him on the head, and they said, what we're missing here is probably $100,000s over the years because we can't sell fireworks. That's kind of elementary, but I think it's the same thing here. If you say that they can't sell it in the city limits, but they can drive a mile down the road and buy it, what are we going to miss out on? You still got to protect the same laws. You still got to go by the same ordinances that the state has. If the city's different, then I think you're going to get challenged in the court of law. And that's kind of my point on it that I've thought about. Am I right or wrong? I don't know. But that's what's given me a lot of thought over the last few days. I'm thinking about the citizens of Seminole and the money that we're spending or not spending trying to defeat what we think might be right. And that's the part that scares me.
I think you've got a good point. In my experience in medicine, and I'm sure the good doctor can confirm this for medical practice, is it starts out at a higher level, and you can only be more restrictive. You can't do things that they say you can't do. So I don't see it as being really complicated. We just adopt what the state says we can do and go from there. And maybe, I don't know if you can put a proviso in, if the state changes theirs, then we can revisit our ordinance. But that just seems pretty logical to me. We do what the state says it's legal and allowable under the law, and hope for some revenue. That's what I think. Like you said, everybody knows where to get a joint if you want one.
Everybody that wants to do it's doing it either
Right.
way. What's a misdemeanor? If you want to do it, they're doing it.
I just don't want to lock anyone up for having a joint in their pocket.
I might add a couple things.
Horrible.
We vote all the time to change things or be more restrictive within the city of Seminole when it comes to the state. If we vote on not having a certain breed of dog within the city or anything like that, it's not illegal in the state of Oklahoma, but we're more restrictive in the city of Seminole. So that in itself, I don't think is abnormal. No matter any ordinance that you make is always opening yourself up to litigation. Just being alive opens you up to litigation. The second thing is this: I'm not a fan of doing things just in support of money. We vote all the time on whether or not to allow alcohol at certain events, and where you can drink, it's restricted to this area. You can only go here. We don't have alcohol. We do have alcohol. And so we vote on those things all the time. I'm not leaning one way or the other. I'm just saying we do make more restrictive some things for some events. You know, I think, you know, whether the state does it or not, even if they allowed smoking. If the state said, you know, it's legal to smoke marijuana, I think we can come back and have the right and say, during a festival, if we're going to restrict whether or not we can drink alcohol at the festival, I would like to think that we could restrict whether or not you're going to smoke marijuana at the festival. And so I don't think we're completely tied to exactly what the state says. You know, of course, they've come out and made it quite restrictive at this point, but, you know, I don't think that we have to say, you know, carte blanche, this is what it is, but, you know, look at each aspect of it.
I think we're limited by what the state says that we can do. The state says
As liberal as
certain
we
things
can
that you
be.
can't do. You know,
Right.
And so
Well,
we're limited by that, but I think in our practical experience, you know, that's just kind of where we ought to set things.
Sure.
And every time we make efforts to restrict something, like, there's an old adage that says, if you want something done, tell your kids not to do it. And that's just kind of the way that all this stuff works. And I'm not just saying that we need to make money off of this. I'm just saying we can get bogged down in this for a long time. And the state says that it's legal. Well, whatever they say is legal. I mean, why would we argue with it?
well, the city does have certain responsibility and authority under the question that was passed by the voters. Let's forget about the regulations that are being discussed now. There are specific references to cities and what they can legislate on in the state question. So that's already there. We have some responsibility to legislate already. And I think our concern is to legislate what comports with state law and at the same time what preserves public safety and welfare. And I looked very carefully at that draft that you have, and basically I think that's very sound. I assume that the 4X thing was the state health department regulations that was referenced. That the other had to do with setting of fees, as I recall.
Yes.
So assuming that we work on those two things, I think what you've got is a basic good document to start with that complies with the state question and will comply with the state regulations.
So you mentioned that we need to appoint a committee or something, you think? Or?
Well, that would be my recommendation, is that we get a working group together, and I think a couple or three city council members, maybe some members, interested members of the community, both, conservative and not, to try to hammer out some things and what's workable, what's not. I'm just fearful that, boy, there's a lot of room. If we just say we're not going to legislate it, we'll wait and see what everybody else does.
Did Brad have a chance to go
No.
over this either?
No. He's been out of the country. So, but between what the state health department is doing, they're just trying to kill it all together until they can force the legislature to make some decisions. That's my projection on it. So I do think it's incumbent upon us. In fact, if we're telling the whole story, it would be that many of the communities, even the legislators, are asking us, what are we going to do? Because Sharon's done such a fantastic job researching this, and I think really and truly, I believe this. I believe her document will probably be the cookbook for the state, the rest of the
I look at
our
it this way.
communities.
I see, initially, I think it's very easy, like Larry alluded to. If the state is already so restrictive right now, it's right now a no-brainer.
Yep.
I think the true question of the debate becomes, when some of these get questioned and taken to court, when they go, and like the biggest one is, your right to smoke it. Do you have the same right to smoke it like you do a cigarette, or do you even have more of a right since it's by prescription? Can you go up and down the Made in Oklahoma Festival and just start smoking right there?
Yeah.
I think that's where in our job lies, to be more restrictive. Or
Right.
alcohol is legal in the state of Oklahoma. I can't walk up and down Made in Oklahoma and drink.
Right.
Can't walk down the street and be drinking and be drunk. And so, those are the things. That's when I think it becomes difficult. At first, I think it's easy. I mean, the state's already more restrictive than I think it will ever be.
Yeah, I think we've got an easy start. Went to a music festival in Guthrie a few years ago. They were drinking openly and smoking marijuana, and I don't know what else. I think they had 1 or 2 arrests that I know of during that whole event, and no violence. So it doesn't scare me that someone might smoke the joint. They're doing it anyway. I'm not saying we should make it, say it. I mean, we can't say that it's okay to do it.
Sure.
That's not even, it's a moot question. I'd move that we, that our mayor appoint a committee, that includes Sharon and Brad, to study this issue and report back to us at our next scheduled meeting.
Do you need something faster than that?
I'd like some names.
No. I mean, do you need, is waiting a month okay? You said you wanted do we need to have a special meeting?
June 26th, so July
Okay, you'd
26th.
still be within the 60
Yeah, we'll still
days.
be
Yeah,
there.
yeah, we'll be good as long as we have something that's.
As long as we act next.
Say again?
As long as we act next month.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be fine. Are you okay with that, Sharon? Mm-hmm.
When, where, what means?
Right this second, or I can wait 30 minutes?
Well, a motion's been made.
No, to appoint them, but I'm saying, do you need all the names right now, or?
It would be great if I could get names before you leave.
If you can come up with names on the other side.
When's Brad gonna be back? I kinda think he ought to be kinda with.
Yeah,
this.
it's
Well, that's
next
part of the
week.
motion, is that Brad and Sharon be included as members of the committee.
I was reading the ordinance. I missed that.
We have a motion that I appoint a committee to study this. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please, Jay.
Chris Anson,
Yes.
Dee Dee Patterson,
Yes.
Larry Church,
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Bill Wantland,
Yes.
Corey Crabtree,
Yes.
John Kramer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Under, obviously with it not acting upon now, we won't have an emergency clause. Under current business, number 5, consideration possible action to approve renewal of the contract for operation of animal control services and facilities at an annual cost of $65,800, which is unchanged from previous years, effective from July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please, Jay.
Chris Anson,
Yes.
Dee Dee Patterson.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Bill Wantland,
Yes.
Corey Crabtree,
Yes.
John Kramer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Number 6, consideration possible action to approve renewal of the memorandum of agreement with Seminole County to memorialize the terms of the county providing jail facilities and services to the city of Seminole for the incarceration of inmates at a cost of $32.68 per calendar day per inmate, effective July 1st through 2018 through June 30th, 2019.
Isn't that about what it's always cost?
Jay, how much have we spent this year on this? Do you have any
I
idea?
have no idea. You?
About 9 or 10 grand, I think.
Not enough to build a new jail.
No. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
So, I move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please, Jay.
Chris Edson.
Yes.
Dee Dee Patterson.
Yes.
Larry Church.
Yes.
Tim Poplin.
Yes.
Bill Wantland.
Yes.
Corey Crabtree.
Yes.
John Kramer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
You know, if we restored the whipping tree, we wouldn't need this.
Reports, city manager.
Just a couple of things. We're seeing good progress on the high school. I'm really proud of what's going on out there. It's going to be fantastic. I'm told that they'll be pouring the footer for the gym perhaps next week, so we'll actually see concrete trucks rolling for the first time, so we're excited to see that. We've been in some discussions with the college regarding the new baseball fields that they've proposed next to the high school. It's on the same side of the road as the high school to the west, and great discussions. I think they're talking about perhaps sharing the facility, and so we're excited about that. It looks like good things are going to be happening. I'll mention that Casey's is also still moving, albeit a crawl. It's very frustrating, but it's their money that they're investing, so we're expecting some new construction plans soon. They wanted some water quality or some water tests to be completed so that they could finish up on their engineering. So, lastly, I want to come to the defense of some of my staff. There was a Facebook story regarding our cemetery and the condition of our cemetery, and that led to a reporter. I don't know if it ever actually made it to a report on TV, but a television reporter came out to our cemetery and made some outlandish statements about how we were being disrespectful to the veterans in our cemetery. She mentioned the condition of the cemetery in general and the high grass that was there. If you paid attention to the pictures behind her, the grass, okay, it was probably 4 inches tall. It needed to be mowed, but it was certainly not disrespectful. And had we mowed at the time, or even recent before, we would have left big ruts in their graves, and that would have been more disrespectful to me. So I just want to come to the defense of Ronnie. He's a fantastic sexton. He's been there for as long as I've been around, and I know that from time to time when he needs help, all of our teams, the street, the water line crews, will rally around him and get what needs to be done. So I'm offended, but that's what happens when you start chasing Facebook stories. You kind of get outlandish stuff. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Ward 1, Larry Church.
Well, I want to thank y'all for a great job. Once again, you've done it. You're hitting it out of the park. Appreciate it a lot. And I just want to reemphasize that stress in the homes of pregnant women produces stressed children who grow up to be prone to violence and criminal activity. One of the easiest ways to have a happy, healthy community is provide happy, healthy homes for women and children.
Ward 1, Bill Wantland.
Let me second what Larry has said about everything that's been done so well, and especially the 4th of July. It's one of the better 4th of Julys, in my opinion. And the whole city staff is to be thanked for that, and the community, and everyone else that's been doing so much in that regard. One other thing, coming back to this medical marijuana thing, we need to be aware of the fact that what the state has done does not apply to Indian land, which is a big chunk of Seminole County. That's under tribal law, which is governed by the federal law, which makes marijuana a criminal offense. Just be aware of that.
Ward 2, John Kramer.
I have nothing.
Ward 3, Corey Crabtree.
I will mimic their comments and say thank you to Sharon for getting ahead of the game on this. I think it's a great job. So, other than that, 4th of July is a great festival, which Chamber does have a lot to do with that. And you do a great job. I actually stood underneath the fireworks this year, and I didn't know it. Went to the same spot we always went to, and they moved it, and I thought, oh goodness, but it was a great show, but it was fun, but it was loud. So, that's all I have.
Ward 3, Tim Poplin.
Yeah, I'll be short. The new paving down Milt Phillips is, I mean, those guys got
Awesome.
in and got out. I figured they'd be there a long time, and I had lunch with a couple of them, and the workers, and then some couple of guys from DOT, and I was impressed with them. But a good job, well done on that deal, and it's smooth. You just need to keep going north, but I don't think that's going to happen. But thanks anyway.
I was completely impressed. I went and actually watched that machine. That one that came and just took it, gobbled it up, and spit it out. I'm just like, what was it? One day, boop, road's gone. Next day, sprayed. Boop. Third day, tarred. We're done. That was impressive.
Thank you guys for breaking on my bypass.
Ward 4, Dee Dee Patterson. You got anything else, sir?
I just said it.
Ward 4, Chris Anson.
Well, it seemed to me like the fireworks lasted longer this year. I don't know if they did or not, but they seemed, I mean, they were really great. I like the finale. I have a question. Is Casey still planning on putting in the truck scales? Do you know if that's still supposed to happen?
We won't know until we receive the final building plans. At least two of their drafts, I say drafts, two of their construction plans that we received before. In fact, the last two, I believe both of them had scales in the plan.
Well, and I mean, is ODOT in charge of taking care of traffic? I mean, I have some concerns with having all these big trucks leaving and entering right there in the middle of one of the main thoroughfares in our town. That's, you know, mostly, you know, it's business, but it's not that kind of entering and leaving with especially trucks. So I'm having a little bit of concern of that. Not that I would turn them away, but just wondering, is there something that can be done? Are we studying, you know, are we working with ODOT? Because I think we're gonna have some issues there.
Okay, so what we did, we asked ODOT about that. They actually did a traffic study. I believe it was ODOT. Was it ODOT that did it, or was it Casey's that hired it done? ODOT. And they said there is no worry that the traffic structures that we've got in place will handle the amount of traffic that Casey's has got coming.
Isn't that what they always tell us?
Not always, especially if we're having to pay for it. They almost always say, hey, yeah, you need extra.
It seems like they ought to, I mean, they ought to at least do like they did at Walmart and get the center median out of there and get some turn lanes or something. Because I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it.
No, that's exactly why we asked for the study, and ODOT came back and said it's not going to be a problem.
Dee Dee.
I have a question in regarding mosquito spraying and so on. What's our schedule on that?
Sharon?
We sprayed the entire town the week before 4th of July, and we have enough spray to do one more, and I can get more if I need to. It's hard to spray when the winds are up, when it's raining. You have to spray in the evenings when the mosquitoes are out, and if the wind is more than 10 miles an hour, they're not out. So it's difficult at times.
Are we having more mosquitoes because of the rain that we're having now?
Yes.
Which is unusual.
They all come in my shop when the wind's blowing.
We heard them your way.
Yeah.
I send them this way.
Under executive session, consideration possible action to enter into executive session under Oklahoma Statute 25, Article 307.B.1, discussing the employment contract of city manager Steve
Going to
Saxon.
executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?